Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Homespun Yak. Kyle and I have a few different topics that we wanted to discuss today. One of them is you sent me a video on the dome, which I briefly got to check out, like this missile dome. Do you kind of want to talk about that? Like, what is that?
Well, yeah, it's basically a defense system that the Israeli military has. I don't know if they created it, but they have definitely been using it since I think about 2011.
Mm.
Um, and basically, the video will kind of tell you the ins and outs of how it's used. But with the ongoing conflict in that area between Palestine and Israel, and especially of late, there's been an incredible amount of violence and missile strikes back and forth. This is just kind of a weapon that has been very prominent in the defense of Israeli territories.
Yeah, I saw the videos explaining that it stops about 20% of missile strikes by like essentially shooting them down, right? Like before they get to their target, like within like a 45-mile radius, something like that.
Yeah, it just detects like which somehow like what missiles are headed toward like civilian populated areas, tries to go target those missiles and like they explode near the proximity of them, and it makes those missiles go off like in midair instead of connecting with targets. And I think they said they have stopped over 200 missiles from hitting potential civilian targets
Yeah, right.
since they've been using this.
Yeah. So that's the kind of like defense systems that we should, that I guess countries should be investing in.
Yeah, it's
Um,
actually working well.
yeah. Yeah. To actually play defense as opposed to thinking of like defense as the
Yeah.
best offense. Um,
Hmm.
that whole situation, I haven't really kept up with it too much, mainly because I feel like we all have to kind of keep our own sanity. Can't
Hmm.
constantly be throwing ourselves into the negativity of the world, but I guess there's a conflict again between
Yeah.
the Israelis and the Palestinians. I guess there's like street rioting and street fighting and stuff like that, and then there's actual fighting between the Palestinian side and the Israeli side at the moment.
Yeah, it seems like there's just continuous rockets being fired
Right. Yeah.
by Hamas in
Hmm.
Palestine, and then Israel will counter, saying that they're targeting potential military strongholds or whatever it might be. But yeah, I'm not entirely sure as to what kicked it off this time. I would imagine it's someone, I don't know. I think it's just the Palestinians are worried that Israel's still going to be infringing on what they see as their land and vice versa. So it's just,
Well,
it's been
people.
going on for so long there
Yeah.
that it's like, do you even need a reason now? It's like we
No.
almost forgot why we're fighting.
Yeah. There's a. My understanding is that there's a potential that the Israelis might invade again into Palestine,
Hmm.
or the Palestinian territories. So I quick watched a quick recap on how it all started and all that stuff, and I still stand by my stance that the British are, I mean, the British are to blame for it all, but they're just complete morons, just creating this state and just deciding. Um, so my understanding is that there's the Jewish religion, then there's the Zionists who believe in a Jewish
Hmm.
state,
Right.
and that's what kind of kickstarted this whole idea of having an independent Israeli state. And then the British were like, well, we got some land in the Middle East. Let's just carve it up and let's
Everybody
just
will be happy.
yeah, like the Arabic people are there, the Christian people are there. Why not just throw in the Jews? So they just carved it up and then were said like, "This is your land. This is your land." And then like less than a year later, the uh, the the Arabic people were going to war or attacking the Israelis. And then the Israelis won that war, which was really short. I think it was like a year, maybe less than a year. And then they took over like a whole lot of land. And then all of the Arabic states, like Jordan, I think Egypt, and like a bunch of other states, ended up attacking the Israel again, and they lost again. So then Israel ended up conquering like part of Egypt and like the rest of the Palestinian state that the UN or the British had created as like this is part of this Palestinian state. And then, there's just been constant negotiations back and forth to like give the Palestinians just a little bit of land back. And then there was I forget what it was, but before Hamas, there was some other group that was secular, and they were fighting against the Israelis. And then out of that came Hamas, who is, I believe, I'm assuming, more religious as well, and they're a little bit more extremist as well. So, and then they kind of took over and were like, this, we're going to fight to expel all of the Israelis from their land. And obviously, it's not going very well, but even so, so now we're seeing a continuation. The last like real big fighting was in like 2014, 2016, something like that. And now we're seeing equal, if not worse, fighting that's occurring now. And that's my education on the whole situation. But ultimately, I still hearken back to the British and potentially, I guess, the United Nations creating, just kind of divvying up some land and just saying, okay, you guys stay here, you guys stay here. All good, right? It's like with these super religious people that believe like this is their land, not just their land, but like they have religious
They're chosen
reason.
people.
Exactly. And I mean, I'm sure many Jewish people, maybe all the Jewish people, thought like, okay, this is the land that we want for ourselves. But I mean, if I were Britain, I'd be like, well, let's see. We have like half the world under our control, so let's carve out a little bit of space, maybe a meadow in,
Maybe.
yeah, maybe a meadow in the Congo or something like, like
This is the new Holy Land for
yeah.
Jews.
I mean, I don't like, and you could still like travel to the Holy Land. Like, I don't know. It seems like such a stupid idea. Like, I don't know who
It is
came up with
dumb.
that idea.
It's
I just
incredibly
don't know.
dumb
Yeah.
to found a state based on, extremist religious beliefs. That never works. I don't know that that's ever worked like long term, to be like religion is the law, and the religious law states that we are the chosen people for this particular stretch of land, and you know you can't be on it because you are beneath us, and when we will make you slaves once God comes back or does something. I
Right.
don't know. I'm sure. And then, it's like that's like the Zionist thing, is that it's our land. It should only be populated by Jewish people. It was given to us by Abraham or whoever it was. And then, you have the extremists on, the Muslim side, the jihadi extremists, who believe in a caliphate, which is basically a Islamic empire. It's just based solely on Sharia law, and that's also not going to end well. Like, you cannot reason with these people
Right.
in any logical way, especially of a way that we operate here in America, where it's freedom of religion and speech, and you can feel free to practice what you want on your own time. That's just a completely foreign concept to these people, the extremists. And That's a shame because you just get constant, you know, wars and violence and refusal to even acknowledge the other party's, you know, place in that region, or even try to come to terms about how do we geographically break this down so that it makes sense. How can we live together? But I just don't see that happening. And then, you know, I just don't see somebody like Joe Biden stepping into the situation and them actually paying attention and being like, oh, Joe's here, like finally a voice of reason, a strong man that will calm us down. Like, that ain't gonna happen. So
No, an
I
old
don't know.
white dude.
Yeah, and I don't know that it's necessarily like our responsibility to try to go in there and be like, break it up, you know. We need to work together, and like it's in our interests if you do this. And obviously, you want to try to help if you can, let cooler heads prevail, but we might just be so far deep into Israel's ass that like we can't not, you know, do something about it. So, and it's dividing people in Congress and, you know, the House of Representatives who are like, I stand with Palestine, and they're like, well, Israel is a Christian fearing God nation and we need to do this. Like,
Yeah.
so I just, yeah, like you said, I can't get wrapped up into all that, but it's definitely something serious that is going on.
Yeah, yeah, it really is. You're right. I think, of course, there's going to be immense bias on the United States side because the United States took over in terms of like becoming Israel's ally and like their most prominent ally and all that. So, like, what is the United States going to do for a moral reason? They're going to be like, "Come on, Israel, quit it. Just give some of your land back." Like, they're never going to say that. It's like
Mm-mm.
we always. This is the ultimate example of where moralism just falls apart. Like we can be moral about stuff that we don't have a huge vested interest in, but the moment
Yep.
things become like, oh, this could actually affect us in terms of like how much oil we're going to get, how much money we're going to make, like all these different things, like a strategic position in the Middle East, having
Mm-hmm.
a strong ally in the Middle East, like suddenly we're going to be like, man, that sucks, guys. Wish we could do something, like
Yep.
nobody's actually going to do that though. And that's that's where this like it's just a bunch of talk. It always is a bunch of talk. We can be big and bad and whatnot when it comes to having very little consequences. Like if I don't know, I keep like the Sudan
Mm-hmm.
goes to war with the Swahili kingdoms. Like, suddenly we're like, okay, guys, break it up. We're here. We're going to take care of it. Big bad America is going to take care of it. But when it comes to this situation where there's a vested interest, I mean, we're always going to be at least slightly biased towards Israel. And I think in many ways it's extremely unfair to the Palestinians. But I also understand the Israeli point of view as well. So it's really difficult, and I think I was in the shower a couple days ago, and I listened to NPR as I'm bathing myself, as I'm cleansing myself with chemicals,
Mm-hmm.
and they were like reporting like this family of like 18 people, everyone like I think they all went to a neighbor's house or something because they had gotten a phone call or something from the Israeli government saying like, "Hey, we're gonna bomb your region in like 5 minutes or something." Whatever. It
Yeah.
was something like that. It was supposed to be like this kind of courtesy warning of, "Hey, we're gonna be bombing that region, so uh, do with that information what you will." So they ended up going over to the neighbors to like warn them as well, and then like the bombing came in, and it killed both families, killed the neighbors, killed the other family. So like 18 people died, except for the infant baby. That's the only person who survived this bombing.
What?
So imagine that. I mean, I was in the shower, literally on my breath, under my breath, multiple times, just saying, "Fuck." Like, fuck. Like, that is, because that is so shocking. That's such a gripping thing. Like, how you have this huge family, and you as an infant don't even know them. Like
Right.
you're a baby. You're not even like a
Yeah.
toddler. And they're all just dead now because of some
And then when you
bombing.
can fully understand that when you get older, like, how does that impact you, you know?
Exactly. I mean, that's like you're an orphan. Bam, you're an orphan.
Yep.
Just like that.
Straight away.
That is crazy to me. I mean, that is so crazy to me. So, anyway, full circle back to our original discussion of this dome thing. I do think that like governments need to invest more into this kind of technology as opposed
Right.
to how can we bomb the others
Yeah.
a lot better, you know?
Yep. And I just saw 5 hours ago article by Reuters. Biden administration approves $735 million arms sale to Israel. Precision guided weapons are the biggest component of that.
I wonder what that's
Yeah.
going to be used for.
Uh,
Hunting geese,
Probably.
hunting boar.
So, seems like the administration has taken a stand with Israel. Shocking.
Yeah, but our condolences to Palestine, right?
Yeah,
And the
yeah.
Palestinian people.
Yeah. Hashtag
So-
Palestine.
God, that is so morbid, but fuck. It's so
I know,
true.
that's
It's
what people do.
it's
Yeah,
crazy.
like,
It's so crazy.
wow, you wrote a thing about helping them. Like, did that actually help? No. Just made other people mad.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where I feel like we need to have generally more empathy and understand that not everyone can have a stance on everything because
Yeah.
the world is so complex that ultimately morals fuck morals. Like they just get thrown out and we ultimately just end up devolving to power struggles. That's what it ultimately comes down to. The United States, of course, is going to side with Israel. It doesn't matter if Israel just genocides like 10 million people. The United States is still going to be like, well, we denounce it. Ha ha. But it's like that kind of bullshit.
Behind
Like,
the scenes, it's like, yeah, here's this $735 million deal.
exactly.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll have it over shortly. Don't
Yeah,
worry.
yeah.
We'll have some more missiles over, no problem. Just hey, but there's a clause there, like just try not to hit any civilians. Try not to. Like this is, I mean, it's just such bullshit. Everything's just such bullshit
Yeah.
over there. It really is. So anyway, that's my general uneducated thoughts on the topic.
Well, it's more educated than most who talk about it all the time, I'm sure.
I don't know about that. I don't have much faith in my own education sometimes. But
Well, neither does Joe Rogan, and he says that after he says about, talks about certain things like the vaccine.
yeah.
But some people take it far, like Prince Harry. I don't know if you
Whoa,
saw that.
no, I did not
Oh,
hear,
yeah.
hear about this.
So this joker, this jackass, ginger cunt, goes on to, and I didn't mean to be that crass, but I'm just in a bad mood. I don't know the guy, but he sounds like that. So I apologize. But he went on this podcast because that's just what he's doing now. He's becoming a celebrity, moving to Canada or wherever the hell he is with his wife, who's his boss. And he went on Armchair Expert with Dax Shepard. Have you heard of this podcast?
I know Dax Shepard, but no, I haven't
Yeah.
listened to it.
Dax Shepard is apparently now one of the leading voices in our culture when it comes to his podcast. But whatever, he went on that and immediately was like, you see what Joe Rogan said? Like how stupid and like idiotic it is to say something like, and then Dax is like, yeah, it was irresponsible and dumb, but also like he said, I'm an MMA cage fighter announcer, like don't listen to me, basically. And he's like, so I get that too. And he's like, no, I mean, he has a responsibility to like say that you need to get vaccinated and you need to do all this shit. And I'm like, you are also not a medical expert. Like, so how dare you come after him
Mm-hmm.
for just giving an opinion
Yeah.
on something?
Yep.
Like, of course, there's going to be a few morons who are like, yeah, Joe said it, so I don't have to do it. Like, of
Yeah.
course, there's going to be that. But that's on them for not understanding what ultimately Joe always says is that don't listen to me, listen to your doctor. This is just how I feel about it.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean it's true or a fact for you. It's just my truth, and it's just me in the moment. Like, I'm probably high as hell right now and drunk a little bit, talking shit with a friend,
Yeah.
like this. Sometimes you say things in the moment that maybe you don't mean, like my comment about Prince Harry being the C word, which, I'm about 80% sure that I do feel that way, but like for him to be like high and mighty and like say like you have a right to speak the truth and like watch what you say and all this stuff, it's like, I don't know, that just comes across as like so arrogant and pompous when you have no medical background or training on COVID or vaccines or anything like that.
Yeah.
Obviously we want people to be safe. Like, that's never what Joe Rogan has said. He's actually provided more information than what the CDC or most governments or governors have said throughout the pandemic, which is try to get healthy as possible, like vitamin D, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
No one else has come out and said that until way later. But I don't know, it just rubbed me the wrong way, the arrogance of this guy who's just born into royalty, never had to, I'm sure he's done a lot of things and that are good and, got a great education, but it's just like, dude, you are literally the most privileged dude on the planet. And for you to just come at Joe Rogan like that, just out of the blue, is
Mm-hmm.
just like this aggression will not stand.
The Roganites will stand.
But I listened to a part of his podcast, most recent, and the guy's like, he's like, "Did you see the prince went after you?" And he's like, "Yeah, I did see that." He's like, "I could probably give him a tip or two as well. I could give him some advice, but I won't go
Uh,
down that road."
uh,
But
huh.
yeah, just very strange, like how they're becoming like super woke, high and mighty people. Him and his wife, who shit on the royal family and wouldn't tell specifically who made a comment that was so-called racist to them about their baby, and how they couldn't handle the pressure and the spotlight and had to move over here and probably living in a mansion now, California, wherever they are. It's just like, to listen to those people about anything is just nonsense, because they're not the common person, they can't relate to people like.
Nope.
So
It's the same
anyways,
condition as with the actors and actresses, right? That we were poking fun at them when they were doing the whole singing thing, and people were like, "Oh, this is so hard for us, it's so difficult," and they're living in their mansion where they get to have
yeah,
their own gym and like all that stuff.
yeah,
It's like people
I'm
are
looking
so
down on
disconnected.
you, and
Yeah,
yeah, why aren't you like I am? It's
yeah.
like, whatever, man. Wish him well.
I don't, but
I don't either.
although on the subject of COVID, CDC guidelines have shifted again, and good old Joey Boy made an announcement on the saying, "Well, take off your masks, folks."
And then he
So
did the ceremonial mask reveal.
did he? I did. I
No, I
didn't
don't
even see it. I
know.
just saw his little message on like Facebook or Twitter or something like that. Whatever it was, I think it was Facebook. But yeah, like now they're saying that people can start to take off their masks if you're vaccinated, and maybe even if you're unvaccinated. I think I know for a fact vaccinated that if you're vaccinated, you can take off your mask indoors and not socially distanced. So vaccinated people can essentially return back to normal life, which
Mm-hmm.
the thing that I was most excited about is the fact that we have a concert that we're going to in August.
Yes.
So that made me feel way better that it's not going to get canceled. So I was
know. And especially
super
that
pumped
it's
about that.
outside as well.
Yeah, and it's outside, right? Exactly, and it's in Philly. Which I was talking to a guy at the gym who's actually from Philly, and he was saying, "Oh yeah, dude, you go to the bars there,
We've
no
been-
one gives
yeah,
a
yeah.
shit."
Oh yeah, Philadelphia. I'm sure it's been like, just like, come on, like, take it off.
Yeah,
Come on in. Who cares?
yeah,
Yeah, it's really nice. Like, I didn't even really think about that aspect of it, but I went to my gym today, and like I walked in and nobody was wearing a mask, and I'm like, hell yeah, this is what I want. This is what I want, man. So it's nice.
my gym still has still using a mask. Although, granted, Maryland or Baltimore, I don't know which one of the two, still has the mask mandate going around. Although there's rumors that they're going to drop the indoor mask mandate for vaccinated people, or just in general, I suppose. But
Yeah.
I always find it funny when I went to the gym and actually poke fun at the front desk people, because so the rules were for the gym that I go to is, one, wear a mask, right? And the second one is they have this thermometer thing, like this automatic thermometer thing. So you have to get your temperature checked, and it's either like your wrist or your forehead that you can do. And that is the greatest waste of space I've ever seen. Normal body temperature is supposed to be around 98.6. So this thing is reading in at like 90 degrees, 89 degrees, 91 degrees.
And they're like,
every time I go in there. Yeah. And they're just like, good, keep going. I'm just
You're
like,
alive,
dude.
good.
So eventually, like after like months of this, I just stopped. I was like, you guys realize that if this actually said 98.6 just once, I would be freaking out, because it underreports
Right.
massively.
I would have a fever, extreme fever.
Exactly. I'd be like on my
Yeah. And
deathbed.
it's like, it's so insane. Like, you have a fever, they're like, you have COVID.
Yeah.
He's got COVID.
Right. Yeah. That and like technically they said anything above 100 they would stop, like a person. So but I'm sitting here thinking, like, if it's reading at 91, dude, if it reads at 98.6, I am close to death, and they would
Yes.
not stop me. They'd be like, okay, you're good.
Sweet. Go. Right on the money. Go ahead.
Oh, it's stunning. So
Yeah,
But-
it's crazy. I'm so glad that things are. I guess still grocery stores you can't not wear a mask around here, but
yeah, right.
I don't know. I just thought it was hilarious when they're like, you no longer have to wear masks outside. I'm like, hey man, never did, never did. Asshole, you think you can tell me what to do outside? Like, give me a break. Like, that people were just like waiting on someone to be like, no more masks outside, and they're like, finally, yeah, I can go
Yeah.
out to the park without a mask on.
Right, yeah.
Yay.
Yeah.
I could. It's like that part was hilarious to me, and I get the indoor thing, of course, but I'll never, for the rest of my life, I'll proudly say I never wore a mask outside.
Yep. I survived the pandemic without a mask.
And now they're like, yeah, we're opening up vaccinations to like 12-year-olds
Oh, right.
and
Yeah, yeah.
stuff.
With
But
Pfizer.
is it necessary for kids? I mean, I don't know
I don't
that
know.
it would hurt them, but I just
Yeah.
wonder if it's even. I don't know.
I think the only
Like, if
thing
the
is just to
teachers are
stop spread.
vaccinated,
Yeah,
I think that's an important step. But I don't know.
that's true. Honestly, just anybody who's in a vulnerable population should get vaccinated, which is what
Yeah.
I've been saying since like
Yeah,
March of
yeah,
last
well,
year.
Prince Harry would tell you that you're being irresponsible because you have a platform.
Yeah, we have what, like is it 60% of Americans or 40% of Americans are fully vaccinated? I don't know, something like that. Obviously, the vaccination rates have decreased significantly, but it's just it's really weird to me. Suddenly, we're just like, all right, we're good.
Yeah.
Just everybody take your masks off now. And I mean
And guess what? There's no going back
no,
now.
definitely not.
There
No.
ain't no going back.
No, definitely not. I will keep a mask on, a mask with me at all times for a long time still, just because I know some immunocompromised people that can't get the vaccine, or it
Yeah,
doesn't
that's
work very
true.
well. So in those like if I see somebody in like like indoors specifically, and they're wearing a mask, like I'll throw on the mask just to like be like, hey, I care about you essentially.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I've been seeing way more people that haven't been wearing masks, even though it's still technically mandated by Maryland or Baltimore here for the time being. But yeah, it's I'm really happy. I'm really happy that we're moving past this whole thing.
Yeah, like I did a wine tasting last Friday,
Mm-hmm.
and that was the day that the governor here said that you don't have to wear masks anymore, which I just hate that idea of just one guy telling us like it's okay to do this now. Like I'll never be comfortable with that, but
Sure.
nonetheless it happened. And uh yeah, I was like about to start, and like the owners of the wine shop, like they're like, yeah, I didn't even know. And they're like, yeah, it's you don't have to wear a mask if you've been vaccinated. And I like just slowly took it off, and then like all these people you could see coming in, like walking around
Yeah.
like with
Right.
no mask, and they're like, people were just way more happy and like,
Yeah.
but still like this feels weird, you
Yeah.
know.
Right.
And but it was fun. It was fun and funny to finally feel back to normalcy in that regard.
Yeah. I'm excited. I definitely concerts I've been holding back on. That's really the biggest thing for me. And admittedly, I do think that this whole thing is premature, though. I gotta admit, like we have no data. We have absolutely zero data showing that vaccinated people can't spread the virus. But fuck it. just,
Yeah.
just,
Hey, once you let it out, it's not coming back. Let me
yeah,
tell you that.
yeah, exactly. So,
Especially in the South.
fuck yeah, I'll hear that. Um, so I was definitely surprised that the CDC suddenly got really lax with things. But on the other hand, the research, I don't know if I mentioned this on the podcast already, but the research being done to figure out if vaccinated people can spread the vaccine is coming out of UNC. And they're not going to be done with that study until like August or something like that, or September. So we're not going to actually know. So
Just taking a risk right now.
totally, we absolutely are. Like, and admittedly, mechanistically, like just thinking about how it works, like it makes good sense to think that if you're vaccinated, you can't. There's a very low
Can't
chance
get
that
it,
you
and
can.
then you can't spread it.
Right. Not like you can get it, but it's like in such small quantities that it doesn't replicate, and it doesn't like then if it doesn't replicate, you can't spread it. So it makes sense. It's
We're
just
banking on that. We
yeah,
just
we're
don't wanna
banking
roll
on
a
it.
7.
But yeah,
Come on.
yeah. If that study comes back and it's like
I'm pretty close to UNC, so if it's bad, I'll just go in there and
just
take
fudge
it, I
them,
guess.
fudge the
Fudge
numbers
the
a little
numbers,
bit.
yeah.
So that's going to be interesting for sure. What those researchers end up coming up with. But yeah, so that's we're entering normalcy. Meanwhile, in India, hundreds of thousands of people are getting infected and thousands of people are dying. Yeah, that's a pretty crazy situation there.
Are we now sending our vaccines overseas to countries?
I think I'm not sure. I know for sure the materials we are sending to India, but I don't know about the actual vaccines itself. I mean, our
Here's
vaccine
all that
rates
you
have
need. Now
decreased.
just put it together and make it.
Yeah, exactly. Like a kit.
Yeah.
But I know
How many people are in India? Like 2 billion?
that's a good question. I mean, well over a billion. I know that.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have an infection rate of 300 or 400,000 a day, that is insane. That is
That's
insane.
truly insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've never been to India, but you would imagine with a population that large and, a poverty level so high, the living conditions are not as sanitary as here, and your proximity to your neighbor is much closer
Hmm.
than here, and it's just the perfect storm for a virus to spread.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So we'll
Do
see.
better, India.
Yeah.
Do better.
With this
Just kidding.
this new triple mutant of COVID. I don't know. Again, they keep mentioning these mutants. I just don't give a shit. I really don't.
Nope. Nope.
I
Shut
just
that down.
yeah. I
Just
mean,
like the mask. Shut it down. We're going back to NASCAR, baby. I gotta go to the Daytona 500, baby. I'm not worried about a mutant variant. I'm worried
uh,
about a cool Budweiser and Dale Jr. crossing that checkered flag.
so who knows? But the triple variant thing is something that people keep floating around that we're gonna. I mean, I told you we're constantly gonna have variants, constantly. Even after this triple variant, after everybody's vaccinated, it doesn't matter. We're still gonna have variants of COVID. So just pointing it out makes no difference. I mean, I guess you can try to figure out how effective the vaccine is against it, and I know they're gonna do the whole probably booster shots and all that stuff, and that's all fine and dandy, but it's just nonsensical to constantly talk about these variants like they're going to
I
suddenly
know.
change our life back to masks because they're
It
just
just
not.
makes people more scared, and that's all the news wants to do is just scare people. They have no information, no hard evidence or fact, but it's like, could this be the next thing? Like, could this hurt us? Could we have to go back? Like,
Yeah,
you
right.
want to go back, but nobody else does.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
hate the media. I
yeah. So
really
do I.
do.
So do I. Which which brings me to another topic related to a Joe Rogan podcast. Russell Peters was on. You know Russell Peters?
Hmm. I
Yeah.
listened to most of that one. Yeah.
Oh, did you? Okay, so
Yeah.
there was a part in it where near the beginning where they were talking about cancel culture and they were talking about movies. So they're talking about Step Brothers specifically. So they're talking about how there's no way that we could make a movie like Step Brothers or some of
Super
the
bad.
super bad, yeah, exactly, like those kinds of movies. We could not make those today. Do you think that that's true?
Uh, hmm. I think you could, and I think they'd be received very well. But I think the people who are behind making big blockbuster movies are very scared of the woke mob and won't finance a film that has like, the word fag in it or something like super bad. They use that word like nonstop for a certain part. And you watch it now and you're like, oh my God, they would never make a movie that had that in it now,
Mm.
even though it's like not meant to be malicious toward gay people. It's just what kids would call each other back in the day. And like, it
I
was
would know
just,
nothing about that.
and yeah, it's words like, you always look back on a movie that you watched in high school. And if you see it now, you're like, damn, like, if they said retard or something like that, like thrown around very casually. People
Didn't
just
do
would
that
are
either.
way too sensitive like now, I'm not saying like people should use these words now, but
But they're
um
going to.
That they're going to use them, and like,
100%. People are going,
yeah, people are
like,
going to use
behind
them.
closed doors, away from the
Yes.
woke mob. Once you
People who
assess,
say you shouldn't use those words will use those words behind
so,
closed doors.
yeah, yeah. But even if, like, once you identify somebody's a woketivist, suddenly you're like, okay, now I know I need to put my wall up. And it's not a wall like oh, I need to be introspective and I need to figure out like why I use these words. It's like I need to get as far away from this person as possible because I want to go be more liberally myself, which means
Yeah.
that then you end up hanging out with friends and people, even people that like technically identify as those terms. Like, I just had a great example and just like flew out of my head, but like you just have people that are really comfortable with, like, it's just comedy, and that's what Joe was talking about, right? And that's what a lot of comedians that go on there talk about, right? Like what's kind of the landscape of comedy, and comedy is this like world that's like, it's like this bubble that is shouldn't be and can't be really pierced by these woketivists because they try and they just look ridiculous because people have this innate kind of ugly self about themselves that they let out around people that they're comfortable with. And it's not supposed to be right. Everybody understands it's not right. But the
Yeah.
woketivists can't make that distinction of like
No.
there's the ugly self, the comfortable self, and the politically correct self. Like I am very politically correct. I try to be as sensitive. And obviously, if a person says like, "Hey, I'm uncomfortable with this," like, cool, that's like totally. And I think a lot of people are like that. But like you get in situations like I've been called a retard many times, and while of course I don't find it offensive. Like I know
Yeah.
friends, they just call me that, and it's like that's hilarious. Like we,
Right.
and but
And
I
like
get
only like 20, only like, 15, 20 years ago, would that people would throw that word around as if it's like not just joking with friends, but like actually referring to someone who's
yeah,
mentally challenged. And it's like, that's just what you call them. Like, I'm not trying to be mean. That's just what you call them. And then all of a sudden it became like, that's extremely derogatory. Like there's a movie called like I Am Sam. I don't know if you've heard about it.
no,
But it's Sean Penn, and he plays a guy with special needs. And it is absolutely like that's one of the movies now. If you just watch the trailer, it is absolutely insane in today's climate. Like it
okay,
is wild. And Michelle Pfeiffer is like the female lead, and she's like a lawyer, and he has a child who is not mentally handicapped, and they're trying to like they're trying to be like, well, he can't have custody of her because he has the intellect of an aardvark or an
that's
11-year-old.
offensive. Please
I know that
apologize.
I went too far with that, but that's what he said. The judge said, and then the lawyer Michelle Pfeiffer is like giving her speech to the judge and like the jury of why he should be able to have custody.
Uh-huh.
And she's like, isn't it? She's like, there's all these moments in every one of your lives where you sometimes are facing a difficult situation and you're like, my God, I feel retarded. And like, that's like that's her speech, like her formal thing. And everybody's like, yeah, I mean, she's right. I do. And it was like never, no one bat an eye. Like I feel like he might have won an Oscar, or that movie might have won an Oscar, and like people are like, "Oh, he was such a brave performance
Yeah,
by Sean Penn." But today, never would you ever make a movie like that.
yeah.
But that was just like maybe late '90s, early 2000s,
Oh
not
yeah,
that
yeah.
long ago. So I don't. And they weren't trying to offend people, but like now it's just like, yeah, you can't do that. Like Tropic Thunder, you could never do that movie.
Ooh, yeah,
Never. Because Ben Stiller does that, and then Robert Downey Jr. plays a black guy.
yeah, exactly.
And it's like the intent is not malicious in any of this. And when it isn't malicious, obviously that's bad and in poor taste. But it seems like lately the amount of words that you used to be able to use are diminishing because people literally feel that words are violence towards other people. Like when you say that word, it is a physical assault of me. And I just wish there was more of a middle ground on just using language in general and understanding intent.
I think that's the biggest thing. Understanding intent.
Yeah.
Uh,
People want to automatically assume that you are the worst. You are intending the most malicious harm with whatever words you're using now.
yeah. Yeah, and it's also just a lack of like individuation. I mean, that's ultimately what it comes down to. Like one on the one side, right? The not understanding a person's intent and then just assuming, oh, that person is trying to be malicious. On the other side, a person who's offended by that, like an actual handy. Okay, one thing is like people calling themselves handy capable.
Yeah.
Can
I
we
mean,
can we can we just stop that? Because
yeah.
if you want me to call you that,
What the
fine.
hell does
I will
that mean?
totally call you that. But what
What does
what
that even mean?
it feels very much like we're slipping into this like let's just ignore the problem. Let's just pretend like
Mm-hmm.
everybody's the same. And intellectually, yes, I agree. Like there are differences between humans. It doesn't make a person any less human. It doesn't make them any less worthy of anything. But just
Yeah.
pretend anyway. So
Playing pretend. Yeah.
a person with disabilities, physical
Mm-hmm.
disabilities, whatever it might be.
Be
Um,
careful.
like, yeah, I'm trying to be, um, like them not communicating, hey, that's offensive to me or whatever it might be. Like, it has to be a two-way street. And like, if I understood that, if I felt like a person was really cool to just hang out with, and I really liked them as a person and I didn't want to offend them, then of course, like I would be like, oh, I'm sorry. And I'll, in the future, I
Yeah.
will call you this, which you want to be called, with utmost respect and whatnot. But, and that's perfectly acceptable. But on the other hand, you have a ton of other people that are in this woketivism movement and everything is offensive. And those are the people,
Mm-hmm.
like, shockingly enough, they actually have the hardest time actually integrating into society, as in
Of
like
course.
they're like
Of course. They'll
ostracized,
turn against each
and they
other.
never think like, why am I being ostracized?
Right.
Why do
Right.
I not have friends? Why
I
does everybody look at me like I'm some weirdo? Because you fucking
You
are.
are. You are.
You're
You're just
not being
trying.
human.
No, you're trying to find the most negative things about people,
Yes.
and you're assuming their intent is negative always. And you're
Yeah.
assuming that you have the righteous authority over what can and cannot be said. We have the First Amendment. I can say whatever the hell I want to say, whenever I want to say it. And if you want to try to ban words or anything like that, you're just living in the wrong country. That's all I can tell you. You might as well just go to Canada. But I would say, well, I listened to a lecture by Jordan Peterson, and he was saying how, like, this is a real statistic on unhappiness. The more liberal you are, and men in particular, the more unhappy you are because you're always trying to find the negative in every single situation, and you're assuming the worst in people. And being liberal is more should be more about trying to find just be open to more scenarios, more new ideas, or the way people live. Or it's not, shaming people for not being on the exact same page as you. And that's kind of what he was saying, is like men who are more liberal, and we talked about it last podcast, men who are more, like, I'm just going to be a beta kind of guy and go along with what this woman says because I want to get laid, or this group or this organization says because I want to show that I care. And like, I'm just being like, just virtue signaling just because I want to fit into this crowd. I really don't care to understand what goes on, you know, beneath the surface level. I just want to appear woke to everybody. And that will cause unhappiness because, like you said, you realize that you're not necessarily integrating into society well when you have these outlandish thoughts that might work on Twitter for these people, but when you step into the real world, that's not really going to fly. It just doesn't translate. And I'm not saying to not be, cautious of your language. Obviously, you need to be cautious, but you shouldn't also be afraid to speak your opinion
And to joke.
and to joke. Yeah,
To joke.
exactly.
Yeah.
To push the limits of, what is and what isn't funny.
Yeah. Obviously context matters and whatnot. There's a lot of nuance to it, but I think if people have this black and white approach of like, don't say the word retard ever, for example, then even in a joking context, it's just, it robs the life out of stuff. And I know people might come back and be like, well, how hard is it really for you to just not say that word? Like, it's, I'll give you.
Mind your business.
Yeah. Yeah. Ultimately, I'll be like, all right, I know to avoid you.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
you can continue having
you're
no
the
friends.
Thought police.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
That's who you are. No fun.
I knew this person. I'm keeping things super general because otherwise people might figure it out.
I know who it is.
Okay. Damn it. So I knew this person that was really liberal, and they confided in me. They told me that they don't know how to have. They don't have any friends that are black, that are Hispanic, that are of any other ethnicity. Only white friends. That's that's all they have, and they're all liberal white people. And they said, like, it bothers me because I try so hard to be as inclusive as possible and not to say particular things and all these different things. And yet, for some reason, I really struggle to make friends with people of different backgrounds and whatnot. And I looked at them and I told them, I was like, that's the problem. I say offensive things from time to time, just not once I get really comfortable with the person and I get a sense of their sense of humor. Like, you get to a point where you know someone and you're like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to sling this out there. It's not a test. It's like literally like you just feel comfortable.
You just know, yeah.
And I mean, obviously if a person then snaps back, it's like, whoa, 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 don't say that. Like, then I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Got it. But I've very rarely had that happen. Like, once you get, and that I've definitely made some really insensitive jokes, not like super racist or anything like that, but I've definitely made some like edgy jokes every once in a while just because they fit the scenario perfectly. And those people, it's not like they sat down and were like, I really appreciated that. No, it's just like they just went along. They just thought it was hilarious. And I did have a few conversations with people who are like, oh, like that was really funny. Like, I love the fact that you said that, or whatever it was. And I'm not saying that happens all the time, but the fact that you can't even put yourself out there, that's what holds you back. The fact that you can't even allow yourself to potentially be offensive.
I know.
For the context of funny, for the context of a relationship building and building that intent. Otherwise, you're so robotic, kind of to your point, right? These super liberal men, for example, they're just like, oh, I need to find, I need to correct this, and I need to correct this. And it's just like, I need to eviscerate all these words. And every year it seems to update. There are more words that we can't say because they fall under this liberal agenda of this is offensive and now this is offensive, and you just keep going down the list, and it's so much. And I told this person, like, you have to let that go because you are going to offend people, but ultimately you don't want those people in your life that are so offended by everything that you say that
you can't be yourself around them.
You can't be yourself. And secondly, you have great intent. Like, your intent is good. Like, if a person approaches you, and I've said it a few times already, and they say, hey, this is offensive to me or whatever, like, I totally take that to heart. And I of course take that into consideration. It's just, man, oh man, just being so rigid about things and being so scared to offend people ultimately leads you to be less human. And then people start recognizing that. Like, the people that you're trying not to offend, they end up getting not offended, but they get turned off by you because you're so robotic as a person. And I told them this, and I don't know. Like I don't know if anything ever changed for them in that regard, but I do think that a part of the reason why I've been able to be friends with people from multiple different backgrounds is the
Mm-hmm.
fact that A, I don't take myself too seriously, and B, like when I'm in those situations and they just have a certain likability about them, a sensibility about them, and they know that I care about them so much, like so much, and that ultimately translates over in my mannerisms and the way that I talk with them and the eye contact I give them and all these different things. So like if I crack a joke here and there, like I know they feel comfortable to tell me, hey, don't say that or whatever, and then I'll know.
Mm-hmm.
Or and B, that they know that my intent is positive, and they end up laughing about it, whatever it might be. It's just surrounding yourself with people like that is. On the flip side, I totally get, like, if you've got a bunch of, like, I don't know, white dudes that are just like,
Mm-hmm.
saying a bunch of racial things, like that's their whole comedy, like only
Right.
just like slinging racial things at one another. A bunch of white dudes saying a bunch of like racist words against one another as if it's like this comedy routine. And that's the only way that they can be comedic with one another. Of course, I can see how that's problematic because that's just perpetuating this problem. So, I guess ultimately what I'm saying is there is a middle ground, and people need to reach for it. They, don't go
Yeah.
overboard. Be sensitive, have great intent, but on the other hand, don't have such great intent that you end up blocking yourself away,
Yeah.
and you're too scared to be human.
Yeah. Don't assume people's intent that you don't know.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. I think
Yeah.
most people have great intent. Most people. I
Yeah.
mean, we're not talking about like racists and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, you go back and you look at just the evolution of anyone's life, and, in particular, when you're looking at the early podcasts from Joe Rogan to now, I
Yeah.
mean, he had people on there and said things then that, of course, between them, it was just joking and it was only intent, but, they would probably not joke or say those similar things now, knowing that certain words have become very incendiary among the masses. And even if you're joking, you would still get probably drop sponsors and whatever it is.
Definitely.
And back then, they didn't have sponsors, and it wasn't as big of a deal because it was just guys just being in a room together who knew each other very well and knew the intent of everybody and just having a good time. But yeah, it's just interesting to see how things like that continue to evolve. And, Superbad's one of my all time favorite comedies. I mean, I think it's brilliantly written, great acting, and really epitomized like, your average high school experience like back then. I mean, it came out when we were in our senior year, just like the
Mm.
characters in the movie. So it was even cooler to kind of watch that. And um, but yeah, I just wonder what a super bad of today would look like if they tried to make a modern version, what, like 14 years later, of like high school graduates now, like how they would interact. And I feel like it would just be so lame.
Oh, I agree.
Just would be so lame. Um,
It wouldn't be authentic.
there's no originality. There's no unique qualities about like big Hollywood anymore, like Hollywood blockbuster movies, because you first have to think about what you can't do, and when you have to do that,
That's a great
then
point.
then originality is completely out the door, and your ultimate goal and vision is altered, and it's never going to be as good as what it could be if you just go all in for it. So that's why just movies now are just complete and utter dog shit, and I just can't get excited about really any movies like I did, when I was in college and before that. So it just sucks that people just let other people scare them into not being their true selves, and that's a shame. But on to bigger things such as sports, which is also woke as hell. But um, what's going on with the Packers? Is Rodgers going to be your guy,
Oh snap!
or is he
Forgot
not going to
about
be
that.
your guy?
Well,
Is he
I don't
coming
really
back?
care that much. I yeah,
Back
that's
on the
I mean
train.
that's a huge deal for sure. I'm glad I'm not really following along with them anymore, because otherwise I'd be pissed off about that too. But no, I think Aaron's out. I think he's out.
Yeah,
Um,
just going to
and I think
Jeopardy.
it's yeah, I think I think it's gonna I think they need to trade him for sure, and they need to get a lot for him.
Yeah,
And that's going to be the best scenario for everyone. I think the Packers will obviously dip significantly for a number of years, but at least they'll have a ton of trade prospects. So ultimately, they'll. I don't think they're going to be as good as they were, but I think they'll be
yeah,
kind of middle of the pack.
right. Well, I don't think we even talked about the Panthers situation.
What is the Panthers situation?
Oh, glad you asked. Uh, we uh, we traded like a late round picks to get Sam Darnold before the draft happened. I'm
That's
sure you
right.
saw that.
Yeah.
So,
And
and
then
we kept,
signed an extension, right? Or something like that
well,
with
we
him?
had Teddy Bridgewater still, and it was like, oh, is this going to be like a QB battle in the
Right.
off
Yeah.
season to
Right.
see who's
Right.
going to get the
Right.
thing? And then they're like, oh no, we're going to trade Teddy to the
Teddy B.
Broncos.
Okay.
And then it was like, oh, okay, this is before the draft. And then we had like the number 6 pick in the draft. And the guy uh, from Ohio State, the quarterback, was still
Fields.
around.
Justin
Yeah,
Fields.
Justin
Yeah.
Fields. And I was watching, like, I wasn't really even watching the draft. I was watching the Pat McAfee live stream of the
Okay.
draft because
Yeah.
that's way more entertaining.
Uh,
And and they all had like it's him and AJ Hawk who were doing it, and they both had I think they both had Fields at
previous
number
Packer.
6. Yeah, and yeah, it came up, and then they're like J.C. Young, and then they had the picture up there, and they're like, and Pat's like, ah, okay. He's like, well, yeah, that's good. And then he's just like, and then they had a picture like change, and it was like a different guy from South Carolina, the college. And he's like, I'll be honest with you, I had no idea who that guy was. Like, like Pat just gets so high sometimes that he just like you could tell that dude is just blasted.
Yeah.
But he was like, all right, sweet. I guess good for the Panthers. And literally, I just was like, and he's a cornerback. We picked a cornerback for number 6, and
Yeah.
evidently he was amazing in college and like shut
Sure.
down a lot of people. And I guess that was a position we needed badly. But I was like, so Sam Darnold's our guy. Like he's just our guy now.
Yeah.
Like he's the future because we gave Teddy away, and now we don't have any other. We didn't draft a quarterback.
Yeah.
We drafted like wide receiver and then like a bunch of defensive and then a lineman. Like I'm not like furious at the draft, but I'm just like, so we're cool with Sam Darnold being the guy.
Yeah.
We're cool with that. Like him just being number 1, and that's the future.
Uh-huh.
Like, all right, that's what we're really doing this.
Well, he had a successful career with the Jets, so they
Yeah,
were.
yeah, why not? But I was like, okay, wow. I will be interested to see how this works. But
Probably gonna be another losing season.
I would imagine so. Yeah, I would imagine so. I mean, we are getting Christian McCaffrey back full healthy.
Hmm.
I don't know. I can't get excited. I still can't get excited. I mean, I'm not saying Sam Darnold is like going to be a bust and that he's like the worst quarterback ever,
Yeah.
because with the Jets, they just had basically nobody to help him
Right.
either.
Yeah.
But I just can't get excited. I mean, if he does well, I'll support him. But I was just in shock by that, complete shock that we were just like, yeah, he's the future. Like, all right, we had the chance to get this guy too. We could have got him as well, and probably got that quarterback at our next pick. But
Right.
whatever, whatever. Got the richest owner in the league, but it doesn't mean shit because there's
Oh,
a
is he?
cap.
I didn't
So
know that.
yeah, I guess he can invest in like better facilities or whatever. But other than that, what can you do? I mean, if you're the richest owner in the Premier League, you can buy the best players. Like that's Man City. They're basically going to win the Premier League and maybe the Champions League because of that fact. Which sometimes you like it and sometimes you don't like that. I mean, to a degree, I probably would prefer the spending cap, but it makes things more interesting
I'm
when
a
you can just blow it out of the water.
I'm a huge proponent of the soft cap that NBA has. That is
Yeah.
the way to go. If you have a rich owner, he can spend, they can spend, because it could be a woman or someone else, and they can then spend over the cap, but then there's a penalty per amount of money that you go over the cap. So like you have to be like uber rich, like disproportionately rich compared to the other owners to be able to afford that cap hit. And I'm not 100% certain, but I'm really not certain. I'm like 10% certain. But I think that money, that cap hit, goes to the other owners or something like that. Like it's like a redistribution of wealth. So it's like you get these surges. Like you're allowed, you essentially, with the amount of money that you have, you can surge to buy like a bunch of great players. And then, of course, like you don't want to maintain that forever if you continue to lose. So then you just like cut them and then you go back down to your regular cap and whatnot. So I love that. I love the way that is figured out, because then you can have these like super teams, but it's not like you can do it perpetually. Like you can't do it indefinitely. So I think that's a great system, because I would hate to have this open system, because if I'm a soccer fan, a football fan, I would pick, of course I'd pick like the biggest team. I would just look up which owner has the most money and just be like, oh, there you go. I'm a fan of them, not even look at the team, and there'd be at least a strong correlation that at least I'd be relatively certain I'd be in contention to win. And with the with the NFL, it is very much based off of like the manager. It's not based on the owner. It's like who can or the president of operations or whatever. Exactly, coach. Best staff, coach, and then like the
players
teammates.
Perform.
Exactly. So and it's all based on that one cap, which like robs you of any sort of flexibility. So kind of sucks. I mean, I
agree.
I wouldn't want that. So soft cap. That's my vote always.
Yeah, then we would be doing a lot better. But, got NBA playoffs kicking off tomorrow. Lakers and the
tomorrow.
Play-in game.
I know. I saw that today. I'd kind of lost track over the last week or two, but they're playing the Golden State Warriors.
Yes.
Go
Warriors.
Yeah. Oh my God. Can you imagine? I think that if you lose though the game, you actually still get another chance to get into the playoffs.
Yeah.
Because it's 8 teams, 6 teams are in. So one winner goes on and then one loser goes on, or something like that. I don't know, something along those lines. I'm not entirely certain on the format, but yeah, the Lakers play the Warriors. That's going to be really intriguing. I think the Lakers will win, but I think it's going to be really intriguing.
Yeah, I mean, if Steph goes off, you never know.
True. Yeah. He doesn't play very well under pressure, though. Insightful.
He's going to hear that.
He's going to hear that, and he's going to go off.
Fuel. You just gave this man fuel. Do you realize what you've done?
And who are the other 2 teams that are playing?
I
NBA.
can't get a good read on this. The ESPN sucks. I
Okay.
hate ESPN.
Grizzlies and Spurs play against one another. Yeah. So it's the Celtics and the Wizards playing against each other, then the Pacers and the Hornets playing against each other. Oh, the Hornets!
Whoa,
Dude,
go
we're
Hornets.
going all the way.
We're going wild carding.
Yeah, at the 10th spot. In
Yeah.
dead last, like literally the worst record that's still in the
God.
playoffs.
Yeah, I'd like to see the Wizards do well.
Oh, wait. I have an update.
Okay.
The games start tonight. Hornets versus Pacers tonight.
Really?
I mean, as in like for folks listening,
play-in.
it'll be tomorrow.
Playing. Yeah.
As in like you already know who won. But yeah, Hornets and Pacers. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. Tuesday. It just automatically shifted
So
over to
it
Tuesday.
is tonight.
It is. Yes, tonight. If you're listening to this right now, within
The
like a
Charlotte
few
Hornets.
hours of it releasing, the Charlotte Hornets will have won against the Pacers, and then the Wizards and the Celtics. That would be a great game. Wizards versus Celtics, because with Russell Westbrook, Bradley Beal versus all the Celtics. Just all their names is
Pretty
Jaylen
much.
Brown,
Jaylen
Jason
Brown.
Tatum. Yeah. So that'll be good.
It could go either way. I don't dislike either team, but I don't know. I just don't know. I like Jaylen Brown a lot. He's a great player.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what's coming down the pipe. I don't know exactly how the play-in works. And Jamie, pull it up. Play-in tournament. Let's see here. How will the play-in be structured? Okay, they've got this graphic here. So the 9th and 10th place play against one another. Then the winner of that goes on and plays against the loser of the 7th and 8th place. And then the winner of that gets the 8th seed. What? Oh, okay. Okay, that makes sense. And then the winner of... Oh, geez. Oh, okay. I figured it out. If you are in the highest seeds, so 1 through 6 are automatically in. 7th and 8th will play against one another. The winner of that automatically gets into the 7th slot for the playoffs. So they're in. No more playing for them. The loser of that will play
Plays the
against the winner of the 9th and 10th seed, and whoever wins that gets the 8th seed. So you get rewarded for being the 7th or 8th seed because you get 2 chances to get into the play-in. So hypothetically, the Lakers would play the Golden State Warriors. If the Lakers lost, they would still get one more chance to play against, like the Grizzlies and Spurs. Yeah, so of course they're gonna get. I mean, if they got kicked out twice, 2 games in a row they lost, Skip Bayless would have a fit.
Oh yeah, LeBron, time to retire.
Yeah, time to retire. No one liked you anyway. No, just kidding. So yeah, that's the news. I don't know if there's anything going on in soccer. I always rely on you in terms of big soccer news.
Well, the most thrilling and exhilarating moment of the weekend was Liverpool versus West Bromwich Albion. And Liverpool is hovering around the the baggies. Liverpool is hanging around that top 4 spot. Top 4 means you get to play in the Champions League the following season.
Oh, okay.
Which is the European best of the best.
Right.
Liverpool, I believe, are 5th right now. And maybe at the time they were 6th, and they were tied 1-1 going into like the 90th minute of this game. And they've got like 2 or 3 more games remaining. So it's not a guarantee that they'll make top 4, but they have to win every game basically from here on out to have a chance. There's a 90th minute, and they had a corner kick, and their goalie decides to run up to be an extra man during the corner kick. He scores the corner kick off an amazing header. I mean, I'm talking about he headed it and guided it into the far like side netting. It was like a world-class header that a striker would like be proud of doing.
Wow.
And he's had like, and basically that won the game 2-1.
Yeah.
And he's had like he's probably had his worst season ever. And so like, just like how I think his dad passed away recently, and like just seeing like his emotions, like, and everybody like came off and like hugged him, and it was really cool. So I definitely recommend checking that out, like Liverpool West Brom highlights. Or his name's Allison. He's a Brazilian keeper.
Okay. I will.
And yeah, it's pretty awesome.
But that's too cool.
That's what happened. Yeah. And so now there's definitely a race to be in the top 4 between like Chelsea and Liverpool. So it'll be an interesting finish to that part of the season. But yeah, Champions League is the next biggest thing coming up at the end of the month.
And who's playing in that?
Filming live. Chelsea and Man City. So all English Champions League
English.
final.
Oh, Champions League.
Yeah, Champions League. Man City have already won the Premier League.
Okay.
Based on how much points they've already accrued.
Yeah.
And they're going to be playing in the Champions League final as well. So we'll be streaming that live from the Misfits pub.
I was not aware.
No mask.
So there's only 4 teams?
Well, Premier League is the top 4 teams that finish in the top 20, or the 20 teams that are in the Prem. If you're in the top 4, you get to play in the Champions League the following season. The Champions League final is about to happen. That was based on results from last season's Premier League. You got to play in that.
Okay. And you said it's all English.
So like Real Madrid, like Napoli, Juventus, they're all in the Champions League if they finish in their top whatever of their domestic league.
Right. Okay. Oh man. Just keeping up with that. I don't know. I'm so far removed from soccer at this point.
Yeah, I spent like I remember my last job riding with a guy who asked me like, so like, what's the difference between like the Premier League and the Champions League? And like, we were driving like to a place that was like 2 hours away, and like by the time I was done, it was like we were almost there.
Oh man!
He's like, I think I got it.
Oh man!
I just need to do a solo episode where I have like a chart, like the guy.
Exactly.
Flat Earth guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Just breaking it down for Americans.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, that would be useful. I had one solo episode for the Homespun Yak. You should. That was when you had your surgery.
Yeah.
So you should. You should do a solo episode one day when I'm.
I tried to do one, and then I uploaded it, and it only recorded 4 minutes, and I was like, well, I'm gonna jump out of the window. Because that was like an hour of me just talking, and like I felt like it was good.
Yeah, you're like, fuck yeah, this is gonna be great.
Yeah, it's sweet.
Yeah,
I titled it Mr. Solo Dolo.
That's so good.
I'll try it again.
Yeah. Well, what'd you talk about? Do you remember? All kinds of stuff. It wasn't like one targeted thing. Okay.
Yeah, all over the place.
Oh man, that's good.
I was pissed.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's kind of like our wine episode that we like. I set up the camera and all that, and then it recorded like 15 seconds.
Yeah, it's pouring all the wine.
Yeah, exactly. It's still my favorite
like
episode. Yeah. We got to redo it. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right.
This time, different strains of marijuana.
Oh my God! No! God, no! No! Bobby, close your ears. Oh man, yeah. That would be fun though, because you're coming up in August, and we could maybe do that like as a pre-game, like maybe kind of late afternoon thing, and then go out.
Yeah.
That'd be a blast. That would be fun. Totally. And then we could record the whole thing, like video record it. That'd be a blast.
Yep.
Okay. Well, folks, stay tuned for that.
Yep.
Well, on that note, I don't have anything else to discuss. Do you have anything else?
I got nothing this time.
Well, that's okay. You're in a bad mood, so, so we'll
Foul
forget
mood.
a foul mood. Yeah, yeah. I just wanted to talk a little bit about actually not very well known King Arthur's poetry. Yeah, he wrote.
Okay, they've unearthed.
Yeah, he wrote
This.
611 essays that were all in Old English.
Old English.
Yes, with a little dabbling of French, actually. So, essay number 1.
It's only 300 pages. I'll translate after you read it in Old English, then I will read the translated version in real English or modern English.
Yeah, Lancelot, wherein art thou?
Where are you, boy?
Translated to Southern. Extreme Southern.
Yes.
Oh, that's good. All right, folks. It was good chatting with you. Or more like talking, because nobody else gets to talking at you. Exactly.
Yep.
Till next time. See ya.
Goodbye.